All right, I want to welcome everybody back. We're going to talk a little stuff, a little topic that is unrelated to the main distraction in the news. Obviously, there's still the red hen crap going on, Maxine Waters. A lot of people, basically everybody's talking about civility or whatever. Well, within the Democratic Party, there's already a civility problem. People are starting to wonder if the party is going to come apart at the seams. Um, there's a real cross-border, basically hostility between Democrats, liberals, and progressives on the one hand, and conservatives on the other. But there's also a major degree of hostility within the Democratic Party. It's talked about very often. I deal with it a lot in terms of the content I produce, because I am in contact with a lot of progressives, not so much the centrist liberals, because they honestly think if you believe anything besides what they do, you're a Russian agent or something. So essentially tomorrow there's going to be primaries in a number of states. Two of them are New York and Maryland. I think the New York federal election primaries are tomorrow. The state election primaries, I believe, are in September, which is very bizarre. It makes sense that New York State is basically, if they can do something in an inefficient way, they'll sure as hell try. Why would you do federal election primaries on one day and then the state ones on a different day? There's really no need. It's kind of like wasting people's time. But you can see over here this photo. You have on the right Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and on the left you have Joe Crowley, who is the current incumbent for New York's 4th congressional district. And this district, I think if it goes the wrong way for progressives, it could end up being a very frustrating. It already is a frustrating year for them, as basically, a camp within the American political system. Because if you look at the screen to the left, my left, you'll see these are the list of candidates endorsed by brand new Congress. Now, I think about a week or 2 weeks ago, I did a stream where I dealt largely with the issues of two organizations, Our Revolution, as well as the other one, I guess, is called Justice Democrats. And then you have Brand New Congress. Brand New Congress is actually organized almost exclusively from ex-Bernie Sanders campaign workers that all decided that they're going to run for Congress in 2018 in order to get rid of the, basically all these people that had once been, leaders of the party, basically cut the fat within the Democratic Party. You have a lot of people who are Democratic serving members of the Democratic Party who have been in office for decades, or even if they weren't, they are committed more to corporate money or the interests of the wealthy, the interests of the establishment, than they are to progressive causes. I think they have a good point there. If they're progressive and they want a space within the Democratic Party, they don't have to automatically vote for some of these candidates that see it as more important to be elected. So we have a couple people here. I have John Sislowski in Sweet Speaks, Lisa PDX, and I think you guys are. Sweet Speaks says watching the success of Trump's great America and the failure of the American left while in the U.S. is great. Well, I think let's not count our eggs before they hatch, because tomorrow, like I said, is an important day for the New York primary. Lisa PDX. I have Leonard McGriddle. Thanks for subscribing. Now, look, when I analyze something like this, I know a lot of my watchers or viewers are a little more on the conservative side, but let's try to be objective about this. The Democratic Party, if it represents corporate interests, it doesn't serve the needs of any public. It doesn't, or it serves obviously the needs of its corporate donors, but that's one of the reasons they've been a failure for several years. So for them, it's good for the Democratic Party if, or at least for the broader future of the Democratic Party, if Cortez, I don't know if you can see this, but I'm hovering over her picture, if she wins tomorrow. It's bad for them if Crowley wins tomorrow. Now, Crowley will probably end up winning the seat if he wins the primary. That's not the question. And Cortez, OcasioCortez, would probably end up winning the seat if she wins the primary. That's not the issue. The issue is not who's going to win the seat in November. The issue is who will refresh the Democratic Party, make it palatable for a new generation or for a larger segment of the public. And that is not going to be Joe Crowley. There have been a lot of rumblings about how he's avoided debates, or he made it to one debate, didn't really put all of his energy into it. He's been endorsed by a lot of the unions or whatever. So I would say, I'm not going to be especially biased. I would say the advantage still lies with him in terms of winning. That's just my opinion based on what I know. I don't live in New York State. I haven't been there for a long, long time, or New York City, actually. I think this is in Queens. So if you're from New York City, I think, you'd have to forgive me for saying that I'm going to predict cautiously that Crowley will win, and then OcasioCortez is going to have to lead a major movement to reform the New York voting system, because over there they have a closed primary system. That meaning that I think you have to register as a Democrat like a long time before the primary. I think you might even have to register in January. and if you don't, you can't vote in the primary. That's how undemocratic the process is in New York State. And it really is ridiculous if you think about it, because these people want to reform their party. Now, I think it kind of works to the advantage of a lot of the people that they want to see the Democratic Party fail, that this happens, but it doesn't work to the advantage of the constituents of her district in New York. Now, this list I have over here. By the way, where did my stylus go? I had a stylus earlier. I must have lost it. So in any case, you see a lot of these names here. A lot of these candidates who were with her didn't actually make it yet. They've already lost. Rosa Calderon, I looked her up. She's lost already. These two candidates from Illinois, Anthony Clark and David Gill, they've lost. You would have, let me see here, Paula Jean Swearingen from West Virginia. She's lost already. These people in Texas, I'm pretty sure they haven't made it. So OcasioCortez is going to have to pretty much show the flag, or else nobody's going to really consider this movement serious. A brand new Congress will only be a serious movement if it actually has people to represent it in Congress. Otherwise, it's a brand new sandbox. That's about it, all that it constitutes. Now let's look at Ocasio's webpage for a second. I don't know why it doesn't let me show your comments. I don't think we're going to make this one super long, but I've been known to lie about that in the past. However, this is just for this is primary day in New York State, also in Maryland, I believe. I think a few other states. I didn't really check. So her webpage is basically, you click on it, it's already in Spanish, which is good for me because I can read it. Not that I give a shit, because I'm not going to vote in this primary because I live in Ohio. Fortunately, I live in a state where you don't tax people out of the real estate prices. There's people every day. This is a true story, by the way. I don't know if you guys can relate. Jeff Johnson, you live in a pretty rural area too. Let me ask you if you know this. I don't live in a rural area, but I'm just asking for reference. We're getting people now all the time who are moving here saying, "Yeah, I lived in Philly, or I lived in New York, And you can't afford to own a house there. It's ridiculous. You can't afford to get a mortgage. Nothing. People, especially people that might have been divorced or they're going through a transition. It's impossible to live in some of these places. So she has this one. It says, it's a time for a political revolution. Vote on June 26th. And, it says working families shouldn't have to fight to live in the most prosperous nation in the world. Now is the time that New York begins to work for everybody. So then you go to her platform. It says Medicare, better Medicare that's expanded and for everybody, meaning universal health care. Living a, I don't know, well, I guess vivienda would be, what do you call it? Damn it, a livelihood as a civil right. So it's your right to earn an income. It's your right. Doesn't matter if you do anything. It's your right to earn an income. And I do think people feel that way. But honestly, if you don't try to do it, there's really no point. And then I want to read this one. Alexandria is supporting a guarantee for a federal job. I think you can actually put this in English, but I don't care because you guys aren't going to vote for this woman anyway because you don't live in New York. So who cares? For whatever person that has the desire and capacity to work, it shouldn't be a problem to find a job. Well, it shouldn't be, but maybe it makes a little sense that for certain things there aren't any jobs. So in any case, what are some of the other ones? Reforming the criminal justice system, women's rights, immigration rights, abolishing ICE. So for somebody, this is why I don't agree with progressivism, okay? Or liberalism either, because the other candidate, Crowley, is obviously a symbol of liberalism. So they want a guaranteed job for everybody, but they also want more people to come into the country. So they want to make it harder for them to actually accomplish their goal. Because the more people you need, it's like this. If you order a box of ice cream sandwiches and you have, there's 20 ice cream sandwiches in a box and you have 16 kids, then you obviously have a surplus of 4 ice cream sandwiches. You're going to do fine. Now, if you let more kids come in to the camp or whatever the fuck it is, and you still have the 1 box of ice cream sandwiches, well, then you're shit out of luck. You can't let in more than 4 kids. I mean, do you really have to be too smart to understand that? Am I taking crazy pills? Sweet Speak says apparently all residents above the age of 14 in New York City, legal or not, can get a New York City ID. Yeah, New York City is run by a bunch of morons, and by the way, there's 600,000 people living on public housing in New York City, 200,000 of which are undocumented. Not undocumented in the sense that they're immigrants. They're just nobody knows really how they got that public housing. Why is Olive bold like a leopard's food references food related? Well, that's from Ryu Shiska. Well, I guess we could probably make it. Well, what do you want it to be? You could say, well, if you need 20 campfires and you have 20 bundles of wood, is that a good one? In any case, you can look at some of these people, and they just got destroyed. Some of the people that were on that list of candidates, it wasn't even close. This Anthony Clark guy, 74% to 26%, just got crushed. The other guy was here. David Gill got 14%. And these are in Democratic districts, okay? So they keep on running their candidates and trying to say, well, we're going to reform the Democratic Party from within. Then they just get curb stomped. There's no point. This Rosa Calderon, I think this isn't loading for some reason, but I looked up on Ballotpedia. I think she got like 7% or something. So there's no point in these organizations really being used to affiliate people. They've been complete failures, whether it's brand new Congress, our revolution, or Justice Democrats. The best case scenario is that they get a handful of people into Congress next year or this year, and then basically they're going to be ignored the whole time. They're going to be in Congress and they're going to be ignored by the other two parties. You have the regular Democrats under Pelosi or one of the other shills that's around her, that Chris Van Hollen guy, I think his name is. And then you're going to get the Republicans, obviously. So what's the other big race going on? The Maryland governor's race. We have Rushern Baker, who in a number of polls he's leading Ben Jealous, who is the progressive candidate. Now, I want to say something about Ben Jealous. And I don't know anything about the other guy. His name's Rushern Baker, who looks to be a little more of a local flavor. He's, I think, an administrator in Prince George County, which is one of the larger counties in Maryland. But Ben Jealous, for the progressives to have selected him, whether it's the Our Revolution or any of the other groups, shows that they're willing to accept any garbage. Now, I know what you're saying. That's not nice of you to say because Ben Jealous used to be the head of the NAACP. Well, as head of the NAACP, what did he really do? What did he really do all those years under Obama when supposedly Obama was the one who was violating everybody's... a lot of these progressives are now coming in with the knives out, trying to, stick it to the previous administration too, because they're finally getting indignant. They're like, wait a second, for all these years, Obama let all these problems fester, whether it was the wars in Yemen and Syria and Libya, or whether it was the issue of, what was the other thing? The border and the deportations, or Obamacare, which was a complete and utter failure for progressives. They're basically deciding now it's time for us to throw off the shackles of the Obama era and go up against his establishment candidates. Well, the fact of the matter is that if Ben Jealous gets nominated, he really is, well, he's the same as one of those establishment candidates. There's very, very little difference. Lisa PDX, have a good night. In any case, what I'm saying is that, in Maryland, which is a state that's largely blue, but it has a Republican governor, if Ben Jealous gets nominated, I would pretty much be hoping that he loses. This other guy, Rushern Baker, I have no clue about him. Then you have the other person here, Richard Madaleno, the guy who made that commercial where he was saying, well, his whole thing was that his resistance to Donald Trump was that he kissed his husband. He's like, being gay is resistance to Trump. Well, I don't think anybody else cares as much about you kissing your husband as you think it is. It's like, we get it. People have moved on. Nobody cares. We can accept that you're obviously looking for attention, and we're not going to give it to you just because of that, or we're just going to make fun of you. And for somebody to use that as a credential to be elected governor is ridiculous. What if I was to say that my reason for wanting to run for the Senate is that I'm a great carpenter or something. I love carpentry. Or if I say, well, I raise turtles or something. See, those aren't food references unless you guys eat turtles. So there you go, right? It's just a non-food reference. So essentially, Ryoshiska says, I am coming out with a pussy-flavored weed. Would you support it? Well, I think you have the support of everybody here, Ryoshiska, and we're 100% behind you. Essentially, we're having here a primary of social justice warriors. You have this Richard Madaleno, this Ben Jealous, and then you have Rushern Baker, I think is, from what I can tell, and I don't follow Maryland politics a ton, There's the Tom Binns channel, which is slightly more focused on that. It's really going to be a test of who's going to be able to go up against that Larry Hogan governor guy, who I think is still the favorite to win because he's overall seen as a very popular governor. Went through a cancer scare, and that's what's going to be interesting. Which side of the equation does better? Ben Jealous. So I'm looking at Ryu's comment. Ben Jealous was the head of the NAACP. All those years, instead of making it a really influential organization, it was just turned into another arm of the Obama Democratic Party. It used to be that the NAACP was an effective, I would say, representative of certain concerns within the black community. No more. It's become effectively another arm of the Democratic Party. So I want to just close by saying that if these candidates lose tomorrow, especially OcasioCortez, it is going to be a very frustrating summer and fall for the progressives. They're not going to have very many people to root for. I'll show you this list again. There's a number of people they just got over here. There's Paula Jean Swearingen. She lost, I think, by a 2-to-1 margin to Joe Manchin in New York. It's just not working. Let me see if this one. We can't get that one. Texas. We'll look up these Texas people really fast. So this is from the Texas Tribune, which is a more progressive newspaper. So you see, first of all, there's 3 times as much Republican turnout in the primary anyway. That's not a good sign for them. There's all these polls that are saying, oh, the Republicans are in trouble. Look at these numbers. Well, I mean, the turnout is not looking very well for the Democrats. So 2nd Congressional District. Let's see here. Agricultural Commissioner. Wow, they have a fuckload of jobs in Texas. So, you also had Cruz had basically a 2-to-1 margin in turnout. And District 2, let me see here. Did this guy make it through? 2nd Congressional. Yeah, Darnell Jones didn't make it through. Sorry. Thanks for playing. Who's the other guy? Vanessa Adia. I think it was the 12th Congressional District. Was running unopposed, but, that might be a hard one to win. So you have one person who went through. Yeah, unopposed, though. Then you have the 14th, Adrienne Bell. So she did get through, but she has not much. I mean, she's facing a pretty solid incumbent. Then you have Rick Trevino, 23rd District. So I think they had a runoff. But we'll see how he did in the runoff. So I guess we have to look that one up. Lindsey Fagan. That's a bad political name to have. Lindsey Fagan. That's the 26th district. So, yeah, she did make it through, but against a very solid incumbent. So we're not going to be seeing. I mean, this year, let me tell you something. With all the stuff that's in the news about the Trump shit, my hair looks like crap, by the way, but this is why I wear this during some of these videos. I don't know why I didn't wear it at the beginning, but look, the progressives in a lot of these seats where they get through in the primary, they're going to have a very difficult time in the general because you know, especially in the climate that we're living in today, where you're seeing a lot of these, you know, this quote unquote lack of civility or whatever. It's just it's not working out. You know, people don't want to be shamed into voting for somebody else, and especially, do you really think it's convincing to have people come to somebody's house and yell at them and basically create a lot of noise? That's not an effective way of earning votes. In fact, you can probably scare a number of votes away that way. Ryu Shiska says, answer my bagel question. Let me see where you... Is a great eater of bagels give that man an award and $1 million? That's not a question, though. So I don't know what he's talking about. Your bookshelf looks like shit again. Well, it's going to keep looking like shit. Anyone else seen the Richard Painter campaign ad? It's fucking priceless. Is that the guy who... That's not the guy with the pepper spray, was it? Because I think that guy's name was like Levi Telemann or something. I think Colorado is tomorrow too, by the way. I thought it was the only one I thought would get beat with a sack of shekels by my fellow Jews for not like... No, I like eating bagels, but I mean, what the hell does... That wasn't a question. Let me see here. How many shekels will I make? Is it bad that I am a Jew and don't like bagels? I don't know. I mean, do you have some sort of gluten allergy? I mean, you know, people... I hate gefilte fish, which is an even more... gefilte fish is like an even more symbolic Jewish food, and that stuff is garbage. I don't even touch it. So, I mean, maybe we're both in the same boat. Anyway, that's an odd way to end the show. But please pay attention to tomorrow's primaries. I didn't really focus on Colorado that much. Maybe I'll make something tomorrow, and maybe not. And we'll have a good night. And Ryu Shiska, good luck with that. See you guys later.